Hey everyone, this is Neil.
And this is David.
We are not film critics. In this week's episode, we are going to talk about the So I guess first off, we'll start off with the 21 Jump Street, the first movie, which actually came out, believe it or not, 9 years ago.
That feels like way too long ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow. But anyways, David, first impressions?
um, I have a little bit of background with this movie. I remember I remember when not when I was a kid, but like when I was younger, I heard a lot about this movie and how like funny it was and how it was basically like kind of a really popular comedy movie at the time. But I didn't watch it because I only saw I only got I kind of got like the general plot of it through gifs and the internet and stuff like that. But I actually never watched that. I think I only watched it for the first time like a year or so ago. And despite because I was kind of hyping it up a bit too much in my head, so it kind of disappointed me my first time through. But then I think my second time through watching it, I think I really liked it. I think I liked it more because I knew what was gonna happen. I wasn't like overhyping it, and I think that I just allowed the jokes and like the movie to be funnier, and I allowed to let myself get swept away in it a little bit more instead of trying to fit the movie to the image I had in my head.
Right. Yeah, I had the same, I guess, expectations as well because, again, this movie came out in 2012, and obviously, I heard a lot about it through the internet and stuff, but I actually haven't seen it not up until last week. I think last week, both movies actually. The 21 Jump Street, I haven't seen it since last week, but like for me personally, when I'm watching comedy movies, I just let the movie do its thing. I just don't even do like I don't even analyze it in like a movie perspective. I just ride along with the story, the jokes, and sometimes well, not sometimes, but all the time. That's basically what I do with any other comedy movies. Some people say that comedy movies are the worst type of movies just because they're just funny. But for me personally, it being funny makes it so enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, the whole thing with comedy movies is that oftentimes they have one goal to make you laugh. And the thing is with movies that are very focused, if they get it right, it's amazing. But if they get it wrong, then there's nothing else for you to enjoy in the movie. So comedy movies have to kind of walk a very thin line here. And personally, I think for the first 21 Jump Street, I think it did that. I think it was able to be funny without being overly silly or ridiculous. Even though there were parts of silly and ridiculous, but they felt contained within the world. They felt it never felt like it was anything was coming out of left field. Um, the characters were surprisingly well written. I really liked Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, and they both really played off each other really well in the movie. Um, Ice Cube or Ice T, I can't. I think it's Ice. Is it
Ice
Ice T
Cube,
or
Ice Cube,
Ice T? Um,
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. Ice Cube was actually pretty good. He actually had some of the funniest lines because he always looks very intense and very angry and I find when he's yelling at these guys that have no idea what they're doing. It's the funniest thing.
Yeah. What makes this, the 21 Jump Street, and later on, I guess the 2022 Jump Street. What makes these two movies different from, I guess, from other comedy movies is they actually have a good storyline, right? Although maybe in the beginning of the first movie it was a little I don't want to say rush, but it was a little fast. I get why they did it like that, right? They showed very little of the background story, but I get what they're trying to do with that, because they just want to get it right to the point. Because basically the story of the 21 Jump Street happens not during their high school years, but during them being and them being in the academy and later on being police officers and stuff. Other than that, I think the 21 Jump Street is a very well directed movie. Obviously, director Phil Lord and Christopher Miller did a great job. It isn't corny, which is something I really like because comedy movies, like you said, they tend to get silly, and but this movie, no, not well, not all the time. Sometimes obviously they have some parts where they're being silly and it's just over the top, but it's very well rounded and again enjoyable to watch. And not only funny, but it also has like a good storyline.
When the movie first began, I don't know if I was gonna like it because it did seem at first kind of the movie where they would just be feeding into a bunch of stereotypes. Oh, like the jock and the nerd. Oh no, they don't like each other. Then they're forced to kind of like the Monsters Inc. Monsters University type of storyline, and they're just kind of bathed in those stereotypes and never do anything outside of them. But the movie actually it went out of its way to show how dumb these stereotypes are and how like how the stereotypes aren't actually reflective of who they are. And they even made fun of the trope in high school movies, or like even like you like or what is it, even in movies like that take place in universities and colleges, like how the actors ages don't actually look how they're supposed to. Like they're supposed to hang out in high school, but they look like they're 40. And it's the funniest thing because they're just walking around. You could obviously tell that of course they're not supposed to be there, but like when they do something that like high schoolers like would do, or they're trying to imitate high schoolers, it just becomes like it's very funny. It's very enjoyable comedy. It's not like it's not. I don't want to use the word lowbrow comedy because like I feel like that's kind of weird. Like that's not really like a defined term. But it's smart comedy. It makes fun of the established tropes of its genre and it uses them to like enhance the movie going experience.
The movie also has some sort of action, right? And I think the best type of ways to make an audience laugh is to have an action scene and then have a character, which in this case was Jonah Hill's character. I forgot his name. Schmidt, right? His character being the, I guess, how do I say this? The I don't want to say outliner, but being the one with the he's scared to say the
Oh,
least.
so he's kind of like the oh god, the word is escaping me as well. Kind of like
Yeah.
the I don't want to use the word scaredy cat, but that's the only word that's coming to my head.
Yeah. You get what I mean, right? But
Yeah.
that's who he is. And then when he does try to do something, right, and it turns into some silly comedy, and it's actually pretty funny, and it happens a lot in if you watch a lot of Kevin Hart's movies, that's what he does as well. But Jonah Hill does a great job. The writer does a great job in incorporating that and not only making it serious. The action being serious. Because they want to tell you that the movie is a comedy movie, right? And so they include bits of comedies during action scenes, which makes it like 100 times better. It makes the movie 100 times better, 100 times funnier too.
The thing is with the comedy, sorry, not the comedy, the action in the movie is sometimes in the first in 21 Jump Street. I don't feel like sometimes it could have been better executed. You can tell that this is the first like the director's like first real like foray into the action genre, like, and they're trying to parody it, right? But I feel like sometimes more clarity would be needed, or there could like they're not very creative in their use of the action sequences, and they're funny. Like no doubt they're funny, but I feel like sometimes there is an opportunity like for them to be more creative and then to be more entertaining to the viewer. And I think 21 Jump Street sometimes in its action scenes it doesn't go as far as I'd like it to.
I understand. I understand. Another issue I have with this movie, 21 Jump Street. I think it was too I forgot the word. Oh my goodness. It's too predictable. It has a good storyline, right? But the way it's set up, like you could just tell that it's gonna you could just like because okay, when I was watching the movie, right? When I was watching the movie, I didn't have like I didn't have like a solid inference in what's gonna happen. But when when I saw like the scene after, let's say, after the nerd people, right? Well, I don't want to call them nerds, but the people in the science class. You see how they were having the tracker thing, right? The tracker. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. It was like you could just tell that them and then their skills will be used. And then when they are used and you see the scene after that, you'd realize, look, this you expected it, right? You know what I mean? Like subconsciously you expected it, but you just didn't know what's gonna happen. Like do you know what I mean?
I'm gonna actually have to disagree with you a bit here because I think like the predictability of the movie kind of added to the comedy because the second something happens, like because the thing about comedy, it's not always just surprise. Because if every joke was just a surprise, then that wouldn't be as funny. But sometimes what's gonna happen, and then it hits you earlier, and then you have like more time to build up, and then I don't know. I feel like sometimes the predictability of the movie and the characters, and every time like you see someone, you know pretty much exactly what's how they're gonna play out. I think that sometimes added to the comedy, and especially also helped them because they do also subvert expectations, like in the movie. I think that helped the times when they subvert the expectations of like what you think the character's gonna do or what the plot is gonna be. I think that makes it even more entertaining and more funny.
Yeah, I get what that I get what you mean, but and we'll talk about it later on with 22 Jump Street, but like I guess having like the movie as a surprise makes it better as like a better movie overall and not just as a comedy movie, but it makes it like makes it a better movie overall. I'm gonna say it now, but that's why I like 22 Jump Street more than I did 21 Jump Street.
Okay.
Do you have any, I guess, do you have any David rants for 21 Jump Street?
I think I do, but I think we should introduce 22 Jump Street first before we get into my rant.
All right.
Because my rant is about 22 Jump Street.
Okay, all right, okay. That's interesting. I guess we'll move on to 22 Jump Street. Again, this movie came out in 2014, right? And that was 7 years ago?
Oh God! Don't make me feel so old.
No, oh my goodness. Wow. All right. First impressions, David.
I saw this movie right after the first one. Like I watched the first one. I'm like, oh wow, that was pretty good. I heard there was a second one, so I watched it immediately after. And honestly, like I think 22 22 Jump Street kind of it's very funny at the beginning. The opening scene is like really funny, and like I think also you can tell that the directors have improved because the action scenes in 22 Jump Street are better. The what is it? The comedy for like the first cut like the first like half of the movie is really better. But I feel like at the end it kind of disappointed me a bit because like in the first movie the actually I think you know what let's go into a rant right now. I'm gonna get into a rant right now. Okay, let me just breathe. So I'm gonna okay, I'm ready to go. So in the first movie of 22 Jump Street, the characters kind of they often they start out like with the stereotypes, then they subvert the stereotypes by the end, and they kind of subvert your expectations of what's going to happen in the story. Meanwhile, in the second 22 Jump Street, I feel like they don't do that. I feel like the characters they kind of they stay more to their stereotypes and they stay more to their and they don't subvert expectations enough, and that the comedy kind of suffers. And I feel like there's a lot of parts in the second 22 Jump Street where they are it's just there's long points without comedy. It's not very as funny, and the plot isn't as compelling because I feel like it's a retread. I know, like obviously that's some of the point. They do make jokes at the expense of, hey, wow, look how similar this is to the first movie. But I think that only works if you can then subvert the expectations of the retread. But they don't. They just kind of roll along with it. I feel like that's kind of a it kind of let me down a bit because I thought, like, hey, this movie, like, like it has this great opening scene. I thought, wow, the opening movie is this good. It can only get better. But instead, it kind of just like falls off from there. And I feel like the plot of them going to college, university wasn't different enough from them going to high school for them to like justify making a whole new movie. I did love the ending gag of the movie, the where they keep making more and more sequels. That was hilarious. That was probably my second favorite part of the movie. But everything from like the first couple scenes to there was just kind of a mishmash of. I feel like it just didn't work. I feel like the characters were flat. I feel like they didn't change. It didn't grow as much. And I feel like it was kind of a retread when it really shouldn't have been. I feel like they could have done more, but they just kind of decided to kind of just let the characters like play into the stereotypes more, and they decided to kind of they not that they didn't care as much. I don't want to assume the intentions of the filmmakers, but that they decided to let the characters. Maybe they thought it would be funnier if they play into the stereotypes, but personally, I think comedy is the funniest when they do the opposite of what you expect them to do. They subvert your expectations, and then they subvert your expectations, but in this movie they kind of didn't do that. Okay, I think that's it.
Well, that's the end of the David rant, but I understand where you're going from. Where you're coming from, but okay, for this is what I'd say, right? The first movie is for both the characters, Jonah Hill's and Channing Tatum's characters, to feel what the other character felt during their high school time, right? All right, let's get that set. I felt the second movie was what could have happened if both of them actually went to college, right? And second movie is, I guess, it's more focused on their relationship than it was in the first movie. But the second movie, I guess, it had that telescope on Channing Tatum's character, right? Because he never really found himself. In all honesty, right? He's always been, um, I guess, he's always been. I don't want to say jealous, but he's always been the lesser of the two. If you're not comparing, but if you're looking at Jonah Hill's and Channing Tatum's characters, and that's what they try to do. I guess that's what they try to do in the second movie. Have him have like the spotlight, and then find people that, I guess, people that he that have the same, that have common things with him, right? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And I personally, I think the second movie is a lot better. I think the the oh the jokes. I don't think the jokes were better. I think like I guess the action is a lot better. I like the storyline a lot more than the first one. The only problem I did have, though, some of the dialogues were very cheesy, especially during the middle part of the movie. It was getting very cheesy, and I started to cringe a little bit. But I like how they just focused on the relationship that the two had, more than, I guess, isolating one from another, because that's basically what they did in the first movie, right? They isolated the two and have them feel what the other person felt when they were in high school. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you that the action is better in 22 Jump Street than 21. I definitely think that you like it's not only that action scenes, they're more like clear and they're more concise, and like they're better placed in the story, but I feel like they're also more creative, and like they're more entertaining and more engaging for the viewer. While in 21 Jump Street, they kind of just threw the action scenes around. They weren't as creatively planned as they were in 22 Jump Street.
Yeah, the action is definitely a lot better composed. The editing was a lot better in 22 Jump Street as well. That's I think we could both agree on that, because 21 Jump Street had, I mean, I want to say it was bad editing, but compared to 22 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street is obviously better. You know what I do like, though? I do like having Ice Cube having a more, I don't want to say central, but him being more involved in the,
Substantial role.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, substantial role, because I'm not gonna lie, 22 Jump Street, he carried the comedy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that.
He
He
definitely
was like the
carried the
funniest
comedy.
part of the movie for majority of it.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't even have to say the joke, right? It's just how I guess how he is as a character. Captain Dixon. It was just funny, And then him having a daughter, and then having like a whole, what, 2 minute, 3 minute scene with Channing Tatum going crazy over Schmidt sleeping with the captain's daughter. That was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
and then when they meet at the college, I think thing, the take your parents to work day
Yeah,
thingy or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
and
sure.
like he sees him, he's like, oh hell no, or
Yeah, he went
something. It's
off.
very funny.
That was pretty funny. Yeah. Overall, I think overall the second 22 Jump Street is better. 21 Jump Street had better jokes, but 22 Jump Street, if it weren't for Ice Cube, I think 22 Jump Street wouldn't be as good as it is.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the highs, like the most, like the funniest or the best parts, are definitely in 22 Jump Street, right? But I think overall, the movie, like, it's the 21 Jump Street is just a more like an entertaining film. Like if someone asked me like if they just had to watch one of them, right? And I think I'd recommend them like 21 Jump Street over 20, not just because it's like the first movie out of like a duology, but it's just that I think it's just a more solid movie. And I think it's a more entertaining movie. I remember when 21 Jump Street. I remember I saw a couple scenes of it. It kind of reminded me because the dialogue in 21 Jump Street, I feel like it was also more not human, but it was also more relatable. because I'm in high school and I was in high school when I watched it, and like the movie was only made like 7 or 8 years ago, and so maybe the writers they have a better of idea, like maybe it's more relatable. I don't know, whatever. I feel like their dialogue in 21 Jump Street felt more human. It felt like more. It felt not only relatable, but the characters felt like they actually had motivations. Well, in 22 Jump Street, the characters kind of felt a bit more like cardboard cutouts of what the characters should be, instead of like actual real characters.
All right, yeah, I totally understand. I think that's how I feel as well. The first movie, they had better dialogue. It was, I got you just said it was more human, and it was fitted for the, like, what was the setting of the movie of what was actually happening. But the second movie, at times it got like I said earlier, it was very very cheesy. Like it felt so out of place sometimes. The movie didn't have to be that, the dialogue didn't have to be that um cheesy. But I mean, I don't know what's the I guess the motivation into having that such type of dialogue. Maybe again they trying to showcase the relationship that they have, but they could have done it in any other way.
A lot of these films are kind of built on the irony, like the ironic humor, and like the sarcasm, and like the kind of meta commentary of, oh wow, look how like overdone this trope is, and look how like cliched this is. And I think while that does work in the first one because they subvert the expectations, it doesn't work in the second one because I don't feel like they subvert expectations. I feel like they just kind of play into them, and that's kind of where it fails.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you said earlier you like the first movie better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Okay. Well, personally, I like the second. Okay, this is how I would say it. I think overall the first movie is like it's better made overall. If you take everything into account, it's a good movie. But I just like the second movie just because it was obviously the funny scenes, and I think I did like I would say I like the story better in the second movie. They had that twist near the end, which was the officers getting the wrong um the what was he, a psychologist, I think. And then I guess that you know that was like the pivotal moment in the movie where the two characters, Jonah Jenko and Schmidt, them again reuniting, and then I guess um running it back one more time. But that was also the part of the movie where like the um dialogue got very very cheesy, very cringy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. I definitely like get like because yeah, I definitely get it. I'm just trying to mull it over. I definitely get like the whole like aspect of trying to write dialogue that like because what dialogue written down some like because you a lot of times dialogue it also relies on your actors a lot because if you have bad actors, the dialogue's gonna be bad either way. But Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, oftentimes the dialogue be kind of flat, but like they'll like be so into the performance that like it'll make it work. But a lot of times, like with like a lot of the side characters, it just doesn't work like that because it the was it their acting and their like characters are not as strong.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dialogue is definitely one of the, it heavily relies on the delivery. Because when you write it down, right, as let's say maybe a writer, the writer has, I guess, the writer wants it, in a very specific, he or she wants it delivered in a very specific manner. But again, that's up to the actors if they're able to do it like that, right? That's why what's his name? Quentin Tarantino, which we actually featured. Well, that was who he was our very first episode. He wanted, the way he directed, right? He wanted the 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 um the actors saying the lines exactly the way he wants it to be, right? Like no ifs, ands, or buts, no like do it this, no improv. He wants it the way he he wants it done the way he wants it done.
Yeah, he wants it exactly the way that he wrote it, and that can be kind of not frustrating, but it can definitely kind of pigeonhole
Yeah,
an
for
actor.
sure. But again, I guess those are like one of the learning moments, you know, for an actor, because I mean, again, the characters are the writer's creations, right? And as an actor, you're just paid to, I guess, do your best to portray those characters. You know, not to take away that, not to take anything away from the actors. Obviously, actors are very, very important in movies and shows and filmmaking in general. But you have to please the writer in your delivery when it comes to dialogue. But I think we're getting a little too far off.
Yeah, we're getting a bit off topic here.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. For me personally, 22 Jump Street is better than 21 Jump Street. It's one of those very rare moments where I think the sequel is better than the first movie.
I think this is the end of this episode. I think we've talked about both these movies as much as we possibly can without collapsing in on ourselves from the spiral of irony. And I think this is the end of this episode. Any final comments, or do you think
We're good. We're good.
we're good? Okay. So, we'll see you guys all next time, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Not Film Critics.
Special thanks to Nicholas Biancalin. Make sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel at The End Note, or you could follow him on Instagram at endnote_music. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at not.film.critics and on Twitter at nonfilmcritics for exclusive content and news.
See ya!